focus. Focus on who you help and who you want to serve and who you enjoy working with in that category, what you do to help them, and then how you're different from the competition or people who work in this space.
G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Renita Wolf from Poe Wolf Partners based in Colorado Springs, United States. Thanks for your time today, Renita.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation today, Troy.
Me too, because how we know each other is the awesome Rel West, who we had on episode 610 back in December 2024, and again with me on episode 636 in February 2025 this year. And it was a great chat with Rel. I really enjoyed it, and she's connected me with a lot of great guests as well, you being one of them.
Yeah. Yes, I consider her a personal mentor, and she's always willing to share what she's learned as she's launched out on her smaller business after a couple of, or more than a couple, a few successful businesses that she's been able to exit profitably.
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage the audience to go and listen to those. We'll link through to them in the show notes. Really great journey her and her husband did with several businesses, as you mentioned. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yes, well, I'm the founder of Poe Wolf Partners. I launched my company about 2.5 years ago. And what we do is we're an advisory firm and we help small and mid-sized business owners grow, prepare for transition, and align their business with their personal goals. And I'm paid on a project or retainer basis. I help owners improve their business value, reduce owner dependency, and plan for their exit, or simply run a successful business. And I do offer fixed price products kind of on a tiered level, starting with valuation, a business valuation, and then second is a more formal evaluation of their business, which includes the valuation. And then if they want me to stay on and help them implement some improvements in their business, and we discuss and negotiate a possible retaining trainer situation. Or the third option is if they have a deal on the table and they need some help and somebody to look at it and help them get ready so that they can present their company in the best way. So
Right. And very much needed. I've heard there's a massive number of businesses, particularly in the US. I think I read a headline, 75 million in the next 10 years are going to be put on the market for sale. So great services, great timing. But I've also heard, we've had John Warlow on the podcast twice. Have you read any of his books, Built to Sell, or listened to his podcast?
yes, I'm familiar with some of his books. Yes.
Yeah, so John, and John and I were speaking, I asked him what the number was, and he didn't have it offhand, but he did say it was around 80 to 90% of businesses that are put on the market never sell. Is that something you see as well?
Yes, I'm familiar with that statistic as well. And what I'm finding out, I think people may be, in my opinion, people may be surprised as to why that's the case. I found that many business owners just walk away from their businesses. They don't even think about exiting or preparing ahead of time. So that's unfortunate because I'm kind of on a mission right now to help business owners understand that they've created something that is their legacy. And I don't mean only in a financial way, but also in what they've created for their family, their community, and their team members or employees. So, unfortunately, that's the same statistics that I've heard about. Only 10% are successful, but I attribute it to owners just not being emotionally ready to let go of their business.
Yeah, I see that as well. And what are the main areas that you tend to help business owners and businesses with? Like, what are the main problems you see when it comes to one, being able to sell their business, and two, maximize the price they get for it?
Well, a little bit on my background. I said I formed my business about 2.5 years ago. That was after a multi-decade uh, corporate career. I worked as CFO for tech startup companies and then also for larger companies. and then eventually working in corporate development for mergers and acquisitions. So I have that background. So I bring something different than a lot of people who work in this space. And because of that background, I'm really comfortable looking at a business in whole because being a CFO, we're running a full P&L and looking at all the functions. So I bring, and how I'm a little bit different is a holistic approach to looking at the business. We'll look at team alignment, customer relationships, strategic planning. Do they have one? Are they thinking big picture, financial health of the business, operational efficiency, and owner readiness? And typically, when I'm talking to a business owner, the first thing that comes up, we want to talk EBITDA, earning before taxes and amortization and depreciation. So really digging into the cash flow. And I have to say, that's not where I start my conversation when I talk to a business owner. I really want to understand what their goals are. One thing that's maybe a little bit different is when people talk about exiting and mergers and acquisitions and being acquired or selling, they think about, well, what's the multiple? What's the EBITDA? What's the cash that I'm going to get out of my business? And yes, that is extremely important. But what I find is more important is the owner wants to be confident that they leave their business in good hands. And so I ask them who would ideally they like to buy their business. And I explain the difference between the different types of investors. So, for example, financial investors who are looking for an immediate, quick return on investments, or strategic buyers, or other ways that maybe they could sell or exit their business. So I take more of a holistic approach.
Yeah, great. And I've listened to all of John's over 500 podcasts now, the Built to Sell Radio podcast. And a few months ago, he had two Harvard professors on who were talking about ETA. I assume you're across entrepreneur through acquisition. That seems to be gaining a lot of momentum.
I'm not familiar with that.
So it's come out of the Ivy League schools, a lot of MBAs. These two professors have a class on ETA, or entrepreneurship through acquisition, and it's all about going out and buying existing businesses. So they spend a lot of time researching and approaching businesses. Yeah.
Yes, I am familiar with that. And I know it in terms of search funds. So
Yeah.
these are search funds where they bring out, as you said, extremely smart, qualified MBA students, business students look for businesses to buy up, then where they can put in a professional manager into that position and possibly in the process of consolidating businesses, smaller businesses into one larger core business. So yes, I am familiar with that. I just know it under a different name.
Mm. And I absolutely love the federal government scheme over there, the SBA loan, Small Business Administration loan. Do you get involved with that very much with your clients?
No, I don't. I just get them ready and then they can tell their story when they go out and look for financing.
Yeah, it's great. From memory, it's up to the government will guarantee up to a $5 million loan from a bank for someone to buy a business. So, I think that's a great scheme to protect jobs.
Yes, I agree. And also it's one way for possibly the owner who's exiting not to be as much tied in to the business when they're really trying to exit 100%.
Yeah. So that's how you started out. So what year did you start the business? Was it 2022 or 23?
2022, I left corporate. I had been preparing for quite a few years, actually. I worked in banking and wealth management. And because those businesses are highly regulated, I couldn't really get ready to launch my business until I was out. That was in March of 2022 that I launched and have been on this trail. And I picked this area of exit planning and acquisition strategies or selling strategies because that's what I enjoyed most over my corporate career.
Yep, great. So you launched 3 years ago. How old were you when you made the jump to entrepreneurship?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was later in my career, so that was after decades of experience. So I'll just leave that to your imagination.
No worries. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 3 years?
Well, I have to admit, I know I don't have numbers that I could share, But to answer why is because when I left corporate, because everything had to be, I couldn't really get anything going before. So I went from 0 to 100. And that first year and a half, I learned a lot, and it was time well spent. And fortunately, I'd prepared to launch my business, so I was able to fund it that first year.
Yeah, great. And how many team members did you start with, and where are you at now?
Well, I started with one myself because I wanted to learn the business coming from corporate, large companies. I actually worked for Fortune 50 companies. Obviously, I had a staff of people who would do things, so I didn't have to do everything. Well, going out on my own, I had to figure it out. And it would have been nice, I thought at times, to be able to hire somebody to do it, but I wanted to bootstrap my business. And now that I've been doing it for about 2.5 years, I've learned I really needed it to do it myself because that way I understood better of what it was I needed for my business and what really I didn't need and how to focus my efforts on where it would get the most return on my investment. So, for example, picking the correct social media channel. I work primarily on LinkedIn because that's where business owners tend to be more. So I do more B2B type of a business. So that's one example. And then getting my voice around how it is I spoke to potential clients and understanding what their needs were. So really talking to people, gathering input, and then be able to turn that into something that was valuable in the marketplace and where I identified I could be different and help my clients the most.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you've got some other team members now at the moment, even
Oh,
contractors?
yes, I
Yeah.
I hired someone to help, on a contractor basis with the repetitive tasks. So, for
Right.
example, copy editing, the social media post, so those type of things.
And how have you found the transition? It must be very different going from huge, top 50 company in the US down to running your own small business. How have you found that change?
Well, I had a successful corporate career, and it was my choice to leave, and how I found it, I've loved it. I've not looked back one moment as to leaving corporate. I love that I'm able to be independent, work with who I want to, when I want to, and where I want to. And at this point in my life, that's very, very important to me. So I love being out in my business and all the challenges that it has. I enjoy learning new things and trying new things and accomplishing new things.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
When I was sitting with an owner and we had been working through cleaning up some things within their business and looking at strategies and things, and he paused and he looked at me and he said, "I don't know what I'm going to do if I sell this business. I don't know what I'm going to do after this." And I just was able to start counting off, well, these are things you could do, or these are things you could do. Not you're trying to give him a solution, but opening up the horizon because for 30 years his nose had been down running his business. And he got real excited about the possibility, for example, of investing in other small businesses, not having to run them.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's something John mentions on his podcast that is quite common that people don't have a plan for after they sell, and quite a few actually get depressed because they don't really have a purpose, they haven't got hobbies or a strong, friend network. So yeah, I was really surprised with that.
Yes, yes, that's unfortunate, and as I mentioned earlier, the emotional part is one reason that owners don't prepare for exit because first they, as we've discussed, they can't envision what life would be after it, but then also they have some control issues, I find,
Mhm.
because, obviously they started their own business because they want to be in charge and being able to let go. So, for example, delegating some executive functions to a management team so that ideally the company could run without the owner or letting people take care of the clients. Many of them feel that no one can take care of their clients or customers as well as they can. So helping them get past those things.
What does success look like to you?
Um, I would have to say it is where I am right now, being in the position where, as I mentioned earlier, I work with who I want to and how we work together. And meaning, and then working with business owners, I enjoy them. I love spending time with them. And I come from a family of business owners. My family, they didn't own big, large, exciting businesses, but they were more small businesses where they supported their families. And so I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So now to be able to work in that space, so that's how I define success. And
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
great. And are there specific industries you work more with, or geographic locations, or anywhere in the US?
The sectors that my professional corporate career were in financial services. So I specialize in insurance brokerage and then manufacturing and then tech companies. But I do find that the disciplines I bring and my ability to look at the business with a strategic financial executive perspective really applies to all businesses. And if something gets into, for example, a track that's beyond something that I know about, generally brings somebody in who understands that. So, for example, if it's market penetration and it's in a different sector, bringing someone in who understands that sector and can make suggestions to increase um, sales into certain channels, for example.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Focus. Focus on who you help and who you want to serve and who you enjoy working with in that category, what you do to help them, and then how you're different from the competition or people who work in this space.
And how you funded your business? You mentioned you bootstrapped it. You haven't taken investors on or bank loans.
No, no, I wanted to keep it just pure and, like I said, bootstrapped and self-funded.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would have, if I had funding, I may have been able to invest in more qualified experts to help give advice. So I spent, a certain amount of time just gathering the knowledge, but I have the knowledge. So that's also good to know because otherwise, if I depended on someone else, I may assume that I understand it and I really don't. But now I know for sure I do.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
The most stressful is it did not take off as quickly as I anticipated. So that was a surprise to me. But as I've spent more time developing my message and my products and understanding my clients, that was probably a good thing because now I'm more suited and prepared to serve them better.
Have you heard of the rule of 4x2?
No, not off the top of my head.
When I was living in London 15 years ago, I'd go to a lot of events and conferences, and at one I heard this VC talk about when he obviously gets hit up for money a lot from entrepreneurs, and he tells them this rule he's got, which is called the 4x2 rule. It's either going to take 4 times as long and cost twice as much, or cost twice as much and take 4 times as long. The only difference is you get to choose which path. So I think that's, entrepreneurs were overly optimistic on the best of days, so we often do underestimate how long it's going to take and cost to start.
Yes, yes. And I have that experience in my background. Like I said, I was CFO for a tech startup company, so I know how important cash flow is. But fortunately for me personally, I don't have payroll. I don't have a lot of people depending on me to make payroll. So I have a little bit of a luxury to do a little bit different right now.
Mm. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Um, well, one of the things I knew at the beginning was I was not a salesperson. So it's how can I figure out how to get people interested in what I do without trying to pitch them or close them. So that's what I've had to figure out. And I've done that with a lot of content development. I give away a lot of free things as far as articles and how to and understanding in this area of exit planning.
Yeah, great. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Um, Working alone, it's can be a little lonely when you're the only one. You don't have somebody you can turn around and say, "What do you think of this?" or "What do you think of that?" So that's what I've missed the most. But then that's makes sense, especially coming out of a corporate environment.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Working with entrepreneurs and people who found businesses and working with people who love the risk and the excitement. And I love hearing their stories when they tell their stories of how they started their business and how they've maintained it over the years. So I just love that.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Of how to be of service. I've always had that slant, but it's so much more important now because a small business or a medium-sized business where there's a founder owner and it's a privately held company is the legacy that that owner's creating. So I guess I said earlier, it impacts more than that individual or that business. It impacts their family, their community, and then what they do to make things better for other people.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Oh, being organized and being consistent, and don't change gears all the time. Don't start off in new directions. So pick a course, stay with it, and reach a point where at least you have some data to make a decision if it's working or if it's not, or maybe it's just slow to take off. So don't be too quick to make changes.
Are you a small business owner who is ready to take your professional growth to the next level? Sign up to the Grow a Small Business Weekly newsletter. This is your go-to email every Friday and will take about 2 minutes to read. Join the Grow a Small Business community who, like you, are investing in their professional development. Each week, we curate valuable resources, whether it's expert advice, books, podcasts, industry insights, or actionable strategies. We've got you covered. Leave your email at growasmallbusiness.com/weekly.
Now, this question might be more relevant for your extensive corporate career. I'm guessing you've recruited a lot of people over time. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
One of the things I always advise is be slow to hire
Mm.
because it's really hard if you've made, first of all, it's really, I've had to lay people off in my corporate career and do large reorganizations and consolidations and eliminating positions. So I always warn people to don't hire too quickly because it's really hard to let people go. So that's one perspective on that. But the other is if you hire too quickly, you may be too eager and hire the wrong person or the person who's not a really good fit for the position. And I find that people are a little bit slow to let go of people who maybe aren't performing in their roles.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Define your values early. So I keep going back to helping entrepreneurs develop their legacies and then leading by example because that's people are paying attention. We're business owners, but it's like children who watch their parents. People are watching what you're doing and following your example.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I would say in my corporate career, there were times that things were out of balance, particularly when I was younger and you're building your career and wanting to be successful and get the recognition and promotions. So I would say I have some experience of being out of balance. But what I've learned with a long career is that things change and the things that when we're younger we think are important really aren't that important because so for example corporations um, they grow, they shrink, they lay people off, they do reorganizations, and employees just have to be they're kind of have to react to that and be impacted by those changes. So don't take work too serious,
Yep.
but serious enough to do a really good job. I just add that. Always be excellent in the work that you do.
Mm. Yeah, good point. And how much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Again, because I'm bootstrapping, what I've learned is I found free mentors. So Rawl West is one of those mentors that she's been willing to share with me. She provides some perspective. And then also, I listen to podcasts all the time. I listen to books on Audible and read quite a few books. So it's through those lower cost ways for professional development.
No, that's great. Yeah. I do about 13 hours a week listening to audiobooks and podcasts on 1.5 or 2 speed. Really important.
Yeah.
Get new
Well, I
ideas.
love it. I do it at the gym and I'm just hooked on it because during the cardio part of my workout, usually there's something playing in my ear.
Yeah. So you mentioned mentors. Have you had coaches along the way as well?
Yes, when I first started out, I had coaches, and that helped. It helped me realize what I knew and what I had learned in corporate, and how valuable that was in the marketplace. So it really helped get me started in that perspective and gave me some foundation as to things I needed to be focused on initially to get my business going.
And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, I don't, but I do have trusted friends that I talk to and ask for advice if I need an opinion.
All right, Renita, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Um, Being confident because you don't know and you're running everything yourself, or you have just a small team of people helping you, and just being confident. And one of the ways I've done that is I've gotten really comfortable with learning new things and being really bad at them
Mhm.
because I know that I will get better. So I already have that confidence, but staying confident. And as I said, through uncertainty, so not always reacting to everything.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I've read a lot of them, and since I was educating myself, I would say there's a lot of noise out there, but you may even know him, Daniel Priestley.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
Australian living in London. Yeah.
yes, and I always go back to that. He has quite a few books, but particularly Key Person of Influence and Oversubscribed. And then the other author that I love is, his name is Blair Eanes. He, has a couple of books around winning without pitching, which really, as I mentioned earlier, sales is not my forte and something that I was not looking forward to. So it's really preparing your potential client. They've done their research. They've been able to find enough information about you and what you do and your reputation so that when you have those, ideally, when you have those first conversations, they already know quite a bit about you, and obviously they're interested or they would not wanna be talking with you.
Have you read either of April Dunford's books? Obviously Awesome and Sales Pitch.
No, I haven't. I'll take those suggestions, thank you.
Yeah, I'll shoot them through to you. The first book, obviously Awesome, is a book about positioning. So positioning your messaging, et cetera, getting that right. And then obviously Sales Pitch, the second book, is about crafting your sales pitch. So I really like April's approach and the way she teaches. I think you'd enjoy both her books as well as her podcast. So I'll shoot that through to you.
No, thank you.
Any great podcasts, online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Well, I listen to them all, and what I find is as I'm working on another thing in my business, so I've kinda grown, I'll change what I listen to, but I was going to suggest for people who are starting out, one of the things that's really hard is to stay focused. And somebody that I find that's really helpful is Donald Miller's, Business Made Simple and the Story Brand podcast that he offers. So they just really take all that noise that can be out there in the marketplace and puts it into a framework that is, uh, actionable and easy for people to understand. So I really advise that as a nice place to start.
Yeah, Donald Mills' material's great. So I assume you've read Story Brand, the book?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. The second edition came out earlier this year.
yes.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I would recommend that every business owner have a simple KPI dashboard with maybe 5 things that they track, so they can just sit down and think strategically about their business and what things would indicate success or the path to success for them. So, for example, as I said, as I was launching and figuring things out, it was real simple things like just staying consistent, having a content strategy and producing that content and tracking that, and then looking at the increase in followers or people who were paying attention to me and interacting with me on LinkedIn. So having some KPIs that you're paying attention to. And there's others, but those are for the starters.
Mhm. Great. Final, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 3 years ago?
Uh, don't wait for perfect, just start. So
Great advice. Thanks so much for your time today, Renita. Really enjoyed our chat. Decades in corporate, in the CFO role, including at a Fortune 50 company in the US, which is huge. 3 years ago, made the jump to running your own business, helping other small business owners prepare to exit then sell. and much needed, as only 10% of businesses put on the market do eventually sell. And something like 75 million small businesses will be up for sale in the USA in the next decade. So I think you're going to be very busy.
Yes, I hope so.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.